who benefits from all these trends that we discuss, the answer you would get is rich pensioners. These are the people who benefit the most from these trends. And therefore, we can suspect that they're the ones behind these trends, okay? So let's go over them. So let's summarize what we've learned today, okay? Let's look at the signs of Western decline. You've got higher property prices. This happened throughout the Western world. Inflation and lower quality of life. Higher stock market valuations, which means greater inequality. Less real economic growth, less and less people are doing real jobs. Euthanasia for the poor, just killing off the poor people. Mass immigration, population replacement. Lower birth rate, greater public and private debt, bureaucratic gaslighting. When the government no longer acknowledges problems, it just lies to you directly. And privatization, asset stripping, okay? So all this is happening in the Western world. The question now is, why would this happen? And there are different theories, okay? And we'll go over some of the major theories. There's lots and lots of theories. We'll go over the major ones. And there's going to be overlap between these theories. And some of these theories make a lot of sense, okay? So one major theory is the idea of neoliberalism. The idea of neoliberalism is the belief that all that matters in society, all that matters in life is economic growth. If your society can generate more economic growth, all problems will be solved, okay? So if your economy runs really fast, then everyone will be happy. That's the idea of neoliberalism. Then you have techno-feudalism, which is the idea that some big corporations, usually these tech companies, they want to control the world. And so they want to turn everyone into slaves. And if you don't have a house, you don't have your own property, then you can be controlled by these companies, okay? Techno-feudalism. World government, where the United Nations has this conspiracy to control the entire world, to destroy national sovereignty and create a world unified government, okay? Population replacement theory. And the idea here is that the problem for governments in the Western world is that white people are opinionated. They believe in democracy. They believe in freedom. And they're hard to control. So let's replace the white people with Chinese and Indians and Filipinos because Asian people are more obedient, right? That's the idea. And again, these are just theories. I'm not saying they're right or wrong, okay? And we'll go into these theories later on the semester. Now, the last reason is bureaucratic incompetence. Just the government is just stupid, okay? Now, there's some overlap among these theories, and there's some validity to all these theories. But what I want to show you is that there's actually a much better way to analyze this. Whenever you have a problem, you always ask yourself, who benefits? Who is benefiting from this, right? So when we're talking about housing prices, well, clearly property owners are benefiting from this, right? So if we took all the groups, okay, and there's like millions of different groups in society, and we just analyze who benefits from all these trends that we discuss, the answer you would get is rich pensioners. These are the people who benefit the most from these trends. And therefore, we can suspect that they're the ones behind these trends, okay? So let's go over them. Property prices make sense, right? Because they're old, they have houses. They probably have 2 or 3 houses. So they want to see the property prices go up. Higher stock market valuations make sense because they own the most stocks. Euthanasia for the poor makes sense because they want good medical care. If poor people are standing in line, that's a problem for them, right? So just kill the poor people and they'll have better access to healthcare. Right? If that frees up the healthcare system, mass immigration means cheap labor. If they're old, they're 70 or 80 years old, they need gardeners, they need cooks, they need nurses, right? Immigrants. Do you guys want to be gardeners and cooks and laborers? You don't want to be, so we have to bring in immigrants. And everything else, okay? Inflation, economic growth, lower birth rate, gaslighting, it doesn't really affect them. Does that make sense? So all these trends, some of them are really good for these pensioners, and the rest doesn't really affect the pensioners. And that's why we can assume, for analysis, that's the rich pensioners who are most responsible for what's going on. Does it make sense to you guys? All right. So how can we understand this? Well, the problem that we're facing is never in human history have we had so many old rich people before. Okay? And you can see these trends where in the year 1900, people who are 75 and older were just a small fraction of society. But you can see how fast they're growing. Okay? Over 60 years old, really growing really fast. There's a problem because if they keep on living, they accumulate more and more resources, which creates a lot more inequality. Now, I'm not saying that all old people are rich. In fact, that's not the case. If you just look at statistics, you will find that wealth is pretty much evenly distributed among demographics, okay? So there are young people with a lot of money, but there are more old people with money. Okay? So there are lots and lots of old people, the purple are old people who are poor. I'm not saying that old people are the problem, I'm saying that old rich people are the problem. They're a problem because they want their pensions. The pension systems in all societies made assumptions about old people. The major assumption that they made is that old people would die, right? So, for example, in Canada, when they first created the pension system, the retirement age was 65, and they expected people to die when they're 72. So you have 5 to 7 years of a good pension, okay? Guess what, guys? They're not dying, right? And that creates a huge problem with your pension plan. And you can see how these liabilities are going up over time. These are teachers, and as you can see, the liabilities are going way up. Why is this happening? It's happening because of something called assumption changes, okay? So 2 assumptions are being made. First is that old people will die. Well, they're not dying. The other assumption is that if you put money in the stock market, it will year by year improve, right? The problem is that there's volatility in the stock market. It goes up and goes down. And the smart people make money off dumb people. Guess what, guys? Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. In finance, where do the dumbest people work? You guys know? In finance, the dumbest people work where? They work in pension funds. Why? Because it's a boring job. You just sit there and do nothing all day. So these pension funds are constantly getting ripped off from investment banks where the smart people are. Okay, so if you look at all investment vehicles, pension funds have lost the most money. And this has created huge issues within government pension funds throughout the world. Okay, so as you can see, there's volatility in returns in the pension fund, okay? When you put the money in, the returns will differ year by year, and that screws up your model. If you're a young person, do not put money in the pension fund. Why? Because the value of the pension fund is going drastically down. When you grow up, when you mature, and you retire, guess what, guys? There's no money in the pension fund for you, because all that money is gone. Why? Because there are too many retirees and not enough workers. All right, so back in the year 2001, you had a problem. You had 7.6 retirees for every 12.7 workers. The ideal is 1 to 3. So 1 pensioner, 3 workers. That's a healthy pension system. Now you have more pensioners, okay, than you have workers. This is a huge problem. These pensioners will all go bankrupt in 5 to 10 years' time. At the same time, as I said, old people are not dying. In fact, old people are coming to dominate society. This is America. You can see how people who are 85 and older, whoa, look at this. Look at this. The aging crisis in America is huge. But it's not just America, it's everywhere, right? So by the year 2040, you'll have 65 million people in America who are over 65. You have 15 million Americans who are 85. And guess what? These 15 Americans, most of them are the ones who control America. So they dictate policy. And again, this is happening throughout the world, okay? It's particularly stark in Japan and Germany, but this is happening throughout the world. And this leads us to the idea of gerontocracy, okay? This is Joe Biden, President of the United States, and this is Mitch McConnell, who is head of the Senate. They're both retired now, okay? But they're both in their 80s, and they were the two most powerful men in America. He can't walk straight, okay? Whenever he walks, he trips. This guy is even worse because, look at this. The guy's brain dead. The guy is literally brain dead in public, okay? He'll be like, and like, no matter what you do, he's like, this is brain dead, okay? This is a brain freeze. The guy should not be one of the most powerful men in America, but he is. That's the world we live in, because he will not give up power. This is Dianne Feinstein. She died in office. She was 90 years old. She was 90 years old, and she was still working, and she died in her office. And she was a senator in the United States. These people are literally fighting for life, okay? They refuse to give up power. They only give up power if they die. This is the US Senate, again, the most powerful political institution in America. These are people who are above the standard retirement age, which is 62, okay? This guy's 90 years old, and he's still working. 90 years old, and he's still working in the Senate. And he doesn't want to retire. Chuck Grassley. What does it mean to have a world run by old people? Now, maybe in school, maybe at home you've been taught that old people are wise. They're tolerant. They're generous. They're benevolent. No, guys. No. The difference between these three generations, young, mature, and elderly, are pretty stark. If you're young, you're rebellious. You want to change the system. If you're mature, you want things to move slowly, okay? But if you're elderly, you're reactionary, meaning you don't want anything to change. Okay? If you change anything, they get upset and slap you. That's reactionary. Young people are creative. Mature people want growth. But elderly people care first and foremost about safety. Young people are open-minded. Mature people want consensus, meaning they want everyone to get along. But elderly people are stubborn. They want things their way. So we are now living in a gerontocracy which is ruled by elderly people, okay? So we're going to live in a reactionary, stubborn system only concerned about the safety of these people. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that the world will go into lockdown. When there's a virus, guess what? We're all going to have to shut down because old people are afraid of catching germs. It will also lead to a police state. Okay? Now, police state does not mean that there'll be terrible police coming to beat us up. In fact, if in real life, most police that you meet are really, really nice people. But you have no individual freedom. Okay, so let me give you an example of this. So in Canada, a Chinese moved to Canada, and she bought a house, and her son is very naughty. And her son was so naughty that she wants to slap him. But she knows that in Canada, you can't really slap children, even in private, right? So she goes online and asks everyone, can I slap my child? And everyone's like, you can't do that because if you do that, your neighbors will report you to the police. But what you can do is report your child to the police. Tell the police your child is naughty and they'll come and help you discipline your child. In fact, you can get the police to come every single week. They like that. This is what we call a police state, okay? Intrusive government interference into your personal lives. Oh, and lots of surveillance, okay? Wherever you move, you'll be tracked. Whatever call you make, you'll be tracked. In 2003, Britain passed something called the Online Safety Act. And the idea is, if you say anything bad online, you can get arrested. Okay, so the freedom of expression is being limited. This passed in 2023 in Britain, but I assume it will pass everywhere in the Western world. Digital currency. The idea of digital currency is the idea of financial repression. So they're trying to eliminate cash because with cash, there's freedom. You can do whatever you want with cash. You can buy whatever you want for how much you want with cash. But with digital currency, all your transactions will be limited and monitored. Okay? So in the future, you will not be able to buy video games because that's bad for you. Oh, microchip implants, guys. Right? Isn't that great? Before you had cell phones, then you had facial recognition, and in the future you have implants, microchip implants. Immigrants, lots and lots of immigrants, because rich pensioners need help. They need nurses, they need laborers, they need gardeners, they need people to mow their lawn. So you have massive immigration coming into the country. Oh, but good news, okay? It'll be easier for you to study in America from now on, right? Today, Trump announced he wants 600,000 Chinese students to go to the United States, right? Before you guys were worried about not getting your visas and getting denied at the border, don't worry, guys. They want you to go to the United States because you guys are the best labor, okay? You're cheap, you're obedient, and you're studious, and you're young. Okay? So this is the plan, to let in more Chinese students into America so you guys can take care of elderly people. Isn't that great? Good news, right? Oh, lots and lots of prisons, guys. Okay? Because elderly people are afraid of criminals. And also, prisoners are free labor. Isn't that great? Oh, and one more thing. War after war after war. All right? This is what it means by death by gerontocracy. This is what it means to live in a world governed by elderly people. Elderly people are perfectly happy to send young people to die for their glory. All right? Okay. Pretty depressing, but don't worry. Things will get even more depressing as we go along.